everyone. Good evening and welcome to Cosmic Conversations. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi. So excited to welcome you here. We have some fun for you tonight. We have our co-host, which has been here all month with me, Mr. Brandon Thomas. And Brandon is a rock star in and of himself. He has his own podcast, Expanding Reality. He is a super conscious guy and has brought us some phenomenal people this month to share with you. And as he is sharing, whatever platform you are on, we thank you so much for watching us. If you haven't already signed up to be on our mailing list, we ask that you do so. You can go to the galacticalliance.org or Conscious Awakening Network.org and sign up. You can also watch us live right now on YouTube. So for all you YouTubers out there, thank you so much for watching. If you're watching us on the replay, thank you. But please like and subscribe. So tonight, I am super excited and a little bit sad. Tonight is Brandon's last night with us because next Monday night, people will be celebrating the Christmas holidays. So for all you holiday watchers out there, Merry Christmas to you. But Brandon has brought to us a very special guy tonight, Mr. Ellis Sidney, who is a multi-instrumental musician. He is a stage 4 cancer survivor. He is an awesome individual, and I just cannot wait for Brandon to officially introduce him. So Brandon, hello. Thank you so much for being here. It's been awesome to have you with us this month.
This has just been a blast, and thank you so much. I really appreciate this. And yes, this is an incredible young man, guys. Ellis and I go back pretty far, and I'm super excited to introduce him to y'all. But thank you again from the bottom of my heart, Sheila, for having me this month and doing this series. This has been incredible. I'll come back anytime. You know, you are family. So thank you all, listeners and everybody as well, for enjoying these too. We've been having a blast, so thank you.
Thanks so much. So are you ready to go ahead and bring Ellis on?
Are y'all ready? That's the question.
Are y'all ready? I'm ready.
All right. Let's bring him in.
Okay.
Hello,
Ellis.
What's crack-a-lackin', brother?
I'm so happy to be here. I'm also, I literally just got home an hour ago from doing a 3-night ayahuasca ceremony. So I'm really tired, but I'm so excited to get into this. I don't even know what we're gonna talk. I don't care. Let's just talk about whatever. Just presence is really the idea here. So thank you for having me on.
Absolutely, and your music is.
Oh, hold on a minute there. Go ahead and unmute.
Boom. Are we unmuted?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Nice.
Yeah. And Ellis, I think I accidentally muted you too. I was muting everybody that was coming on.
Yeah. Appreciate you doing that. Thank you. And guys, we do that for feedback purposes. You have a voice, but it's because of audio. It's because we live in a world where your microphone, our speakers pick up into your microphone, and then it's this thing, and everybody's like, ah. So anyway, thank you all for understanding that's what's going on. I think you're still muted there, E-bomb. Yeah, you're muted. I think she muted
go ahead
you,
and
so you'll need to manually.
Can you hear me now?
There you go.
There he is.
Podcast problems.
Fingers got just a little too excited there.
No problems at all. These are just what we call opportunities in disguise, and we appreciate everybody being on the fly and flow with us here. So, my friend, yeah, what's funny about this? So, tell us about the journey you were just on, if you don't mind, my man.
Like this past weekend journey?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Journey. Okay. Yeah. So part of what I get to do, and we'll get into this of how I got to do what I'm doing, is being a musician, having gone through things like cancer, problems with substances like alcohol, being young, being a musician, being in that scene. It's pretty common, getting lost in that and forming some identity around that and playing into that. And well, I started working with plant medicines. And so this weekend is pretty much a culmination of the past 6 years coming full circle with a group that some of them were there for my first ever experience. And now I'm sitting here and I'm leading the ceremony with my music, seeing how my music is now an integral part of that space, where I find my music of value and of actual service and help. And so this weekend was just one of those of many weekends that we do throughout the months. Sometimes we'll do 2 to 3 ceremonies a month, but throughout different states, different places with different groups. This weekend just happened to be like home for me, coming back home to the friends and the ones that were there for the beginning, watched the journey I've been on for this past 6 years to now being in that space and seeing what has developed over the past 6 years. And so we went into it this weekend. It was only like 10 people, and we're out in the country town, and it's a nice quiet place. And we had everybody come and sit, and it was a lot of their first time being in a different group. They're so used to other groups and other medicines, and other people running the ceremony space. And I brought some medicine from someone who has a pure heart, who lives in pure integrity in the jungle. His name's Jose Campos, and he has beautiful medicine. Maestro Jose Campos is probably one of the most powerful curanderos out there, next to another teacher of mine that I know at this place called Santuario. And other than him, Maestro Enrique, I had never met anybody who had such powerful medicine until Jose came into the picture. And then I met Maestro William Moriarty, Lorena, I think I'm saying his name right. And he showed me that music. He showed me basically that, because the way he does things is he does like 20% Icaros and 80% music. And his music is like such a powerful component in that space, and working with that vibration and that energy in that space, just with his music. And I never thought that you could do that in the ceremony space, because where I come from, where I was learning from another teacher of mine, because I've had a few teachers come into my life that I've been fortunate enough to work with, sometimes unfortunate. And before that, I thought music was only supposed to be at the very end. And it was Maestro William who showed me, oh, no, there's other aspects to this medicine that you can work with, and because he's a musician first, that's, what he brought to that's how he brings his medicine into the space. And so being a musician first, that's how I brought my medicine into the space with the music. We went into this weekend. The first night was extremely heavy, very heavy on people. Ayahuasca, we can get into that. We can talk about it, but it can be very heavy on the body.
Right.
There's a lot going on energetically that can leave one feeling very, very heavy, very, very soupy, like blah, blah, blah,
Ellis, can I ask you real quick? A lot of people that's been
Sure.
talking with me about their ayahuasca journeys with the purging, they're saying that it's taken on like a different energy, that it feels as if it's always gone deep and always goes deep, but it feels to them as if it's going into a different level, and that it's a almost like a smoother type experience. Are you finding that to be true, or the people that you're working with to be true?
I think that it's all true. I think that it's just it's all different energy. Sometimes the medicine isn't even prepped the same way, even though it's being made by the same curandero. He may put something else in there. He may add a little tohei, which is a master plant. And that can kick it up a notch, really sink you deep into the connection, into the experience, into the energy. I think that really it comes down to the individual personal experience, but also the medicine
or
came from.
cancer growth you're going to get. So parasites cause cancer.
Excuse me, guys, if we can get everybody to mute.
Nope.
There we go.
And so there's a lot of factors in, this is a very complex thing that there's a reason why these curanderos will spend a year just getting started, a year in what they call a dieta, working with all of the master plants, so that they learn how to work with them, learn how to work with that energy, learn how to work with those spirit guides. The shamans out there believe that these spirits that dwell in these forests, that they are ancient healers who are there now serving a different purpose amongst the forest. And so anybody can come in, and you may think you're going to have a hard night, and you don't. And the person who seems to be fine has everything together, and they have a really hard night. But what's a real hard night? Like, it's physically demanding. It's mentally demanding. It's emotionally demanding. It demands your attention. It demands your presence, and it will not tolerate the mind. It will not work with the mind. So therefore, a lot of the times when we go in there with the mind of expectations, of chasing an experience, of not being the observer, but being a participant in the experience, you kind of tend to put your mind, your filters in front of the medicine, and the medicine has to work through that to get through the being that dwells inside, this energetic being that is inside of you that it's trying to connect with, so that it can connect and work with you and develop a relationship with that being, but not the mind. And so a lot of the times that heaviness is because there is energy inside of you that needs to come out. There's debris, clutter that is clogging up the pipes being the connection to source, to spirit, to the higher frequency, the higher vibration. And you can have a lot of obscurities in there. And so what you're feeling is not that, oh, the medicine is punishing me or it's being hard on me. No, the medicine is working on you. But who is it in us to decide what healing feels like in the body, especially on an energetic level? It may not feel so good, especially to the mind. And so you'll see a lot of people go through hard times because they resist, because their mind's trying to figure something out that it can't figure out. Like my teacher says, how can it figure out something that it didn't make?
Right.
You know, and the mind didn't make source made the mind. So the mind only can go so far, but to go deeper into the unknown, unfortunately, the mind doesn't dwell there. So you have to get rid of that to go to where the real lesson is. And so that's what I brought in this weekend. It was really just a powerful weekend of a bunch of strangers coming together. And by the end of 3 days, you felt like you were there for a week and you've all bonded. You've all known so much about each other that not even their own family knows about them. And so we drank the medicine first night, really heavy, strong, powerful medicine, but everybody got through it. We had a good night. Second night, the medicine, now that it had gotten your attention, which is almost like what it felt like, it wanted to grab your attention and demand your presence. And then night two, it was like, now we can do some work. Now that we've gotten a lot of that clearing out of the way, a lot of the clutter, debris cleared away, now let's really get deep. Let's really connect. And then what's even better is when you do a third night, because by the second night, now you've kind of gotten deeper, you've kind of gotten more familiar with it. So going into the third night, you have less anxiety, you have less, worry, angst, stress, concern. You kind of feel more familiar with that feeling, and you can kind of go back into the lessons from the previous nights and kind of carry on where you left off to really cap off the night and walk away with something a little bit more insightful than what you had walking in. Hopefully, that's the idea.
Beautiful.
I hope that answers your question. One thing with me is I tend to talk a little much and drag on, so hopefully I answered your question just fine.
One thing with us, we don't accept apologies for
Okay, good.
altruistic,
I'm not really
authentic
sorry.
answers. And so if you feel called to answer that way, that's the way we want to receive you. So thank you for feeling safe enough to do that, brother.
Thank you.
We're curious about, because you just mentioned that this one was heavy and that it's about the mind. And I'm curious because honestly, I've never asked anybody this. I know Carlos Tanner, the director of the Ayahuasca Foundation, you and I have had tons of conversations about this kind of stuff, but this just occurred to me. Okay. Astrological phases of the moon, eclipses, retrogrades, someone's personal chart being affected by the heavens. Does any of this play into the dieta process, or when you're analyzing when we're going to take medicine? Does any of that come into this? Like, don't drink on eclipses, stuff like that. People usually like ran inside and things. So is there sort of a hidden language within that in the stars as well, as when it's appropriate or perhaps not?
Well, yeah, I think that again, I don't think there's any yes, like I think it does. I've heard of how some let's just call them shamans. I don't know what that word means anymore. Right. But curanderos is we'll just say a lot of the curanderos in the jungle, they will not drink the medicine on an eclipse. We drank the medicine on an eclipse and had a amazing night. It was strong energy for sure, but we had an amazing night. It was very interesting. And some of the maestros in the jungle don't care. They to them that doesn't mean anything. A lot of what you guys talk about goes deep within me. I'm like into it. But my teachers are more simpler than that. They look at it as all energy, and they look at everything as a connection to the stars, to the planet, the oneness in it all, the love. And some will not serve on an eclipse, some will. And I don't think for me personally, my experience and my or what do I know? But my knowledge of thus far, what I've been learning is, yeah, I don't think it really matters. I think there is definitely a difference you can feel. But so far, we haven't had any problems with doing anything on an eclipse. But as I learn more and more and more about it, I will definitely share what I've picked up along the way, and vice versa. If you know more about it, please share with me.
Now that it's a question, absolutely. Now it's a curiosity, so I have to know.
It is a curiosity.
Right? Because when so my journal has a moon tracker in it, and for the reason of not to find out if it's an artificial satellite or not, because it probably totally is, or not even a place you can go, but that's fun. We can have that conversation. But I track it due to the fact that it is sort of a calendar above, and I find that my personal like time of the month, if you will, is new moon. For some reason, about day before or maybe day 2 after, new moon for me puts me in just this retrograde headspace for about 4 days, 3 to 4 days. And I just know myself enough to say, okay, dude, schedule light. Now, I don't know if it's directly due to the effect of the moon, or that it just happens to be on this cycle and there happens to be something I'm paying attention to. It could just as easily be something out in my yard that I notice right in that amount of time and clock it by that. But what I mean to say is that the moon perhaps, but I'm also not ruling out that the moon could be the reason for this. So then that's what made me think about it. And then I just experienced something called my Pluto square in my chart. This is a PSA for everybody. I'm going to step out for a minute, Ellis. This is a PSA for everybody. Look at where Pluto squares in your chart and find that thing out. If you're over 40, probably don't worry about it. You probably already had it, and you're going to cross back to a time around 38 or 40, 42, somewhere in there where you were like, oh my God, my life fell apart. That was probably your Pluto square. But take a look at when it squares in your chart. It's just for everybody off to the side here. Find out and just take like 3 months off. Just do nothing. Pluto moves slow, and it does nasty things to you. So just take your time. Don't worry about it. And there's a support group here for you. So that's another thing. That's why I asked, brother, is because the astrology in my mind is one of these things, and the freaky woo-woo, if we want to say that has correlative effects in life. And I can see during certain time periods, I've gotten just weird advice about it that said, hey, don't take things personally for the next week. And then weird things happened during that week I didn't respond to. Everything unraveled like crazy the week after, like all in the reverse and energy up as if it never happened and then some. And it was just a crazy advance that I sort of felt that I had on this. And so again, if it affects you so much, even full moons, new moons, eclipses, things like this, I didn't know if there was a specific protocol or sort of a mandate, not necessarily, but like you said, because there is so much ritual involved in the process itself. So I would figure that eclipses and things like that perhaps played into it because of like the Arcana that you set up ahead of time. You set this, if you don't mind, do you mind walking through folks through sort of the ritual through the process?
Yeah. Well, first, let me just first give you a little bit of background of what it is where it is I came from with this and what it is I exactly do with this. First of all, again, 6 years ago when I got into this medicine work, it was just for healing. Just, I don't want cancer. I don't want my body to be sick. I mean, even after cancer, I was not taking care of my body. I was in bad shape. I just felt dead inside. I was working on an ambulance and never slept and was popping Adderall to stay awake, and then was drinking at night to fall asleep and had weird sleeping hours. And then it got to the point where it was getting bad. And I had to walk away from it, get sober, and try to find a different alternative to growth, that I was never aware of growing up being in a conservative Christian family. And so, as I started to venture down this journey, where I was learning was from originally a guy who started working with a man named Carlos Castaneda, who wrote a couple of books that are really profound. And then he came from a tradition of working with native elders, Joseph High Eagle being one of them, and, chopping wood, carrying fire, chopping wood and carrying water, for the elders and learning from them. And so he was the first guy that kind of opened me up to the plant medicine world. And then it was through him that I met Maestro Enrique in Peru and went to Peru for the first time. And it was, we'll have to get into that story, but just real quick to get to your point, to your question, these guys who I worked with, they never once mentioned anything about eclipses or anything about astrology. They were strictly just like Maestro here that I learned from in the beginning. I consider him like the maestro of the mind. So what his specialty was the mind. And what is the mind? And what is looking out of your eyeballs? You know, and where is that looking from before the mind comes in and tries to screw with it? And so from there, I went to the jungle and then started learning with Maestro Enrique about the energy of the forest. And so my background in this medicine work, it doesn't have much at all to do with astrology, eclipses, much of anything other than just purely the mind, your energetic presence, and the energy of the forest, how to work with the animals, the trees, the plants, the flora, the fauna, the water, all of those things. Now, I am curious though about as to what you're asking, because if you take this back to its origin, you know, whereas some believe, as we're discovering, you know, thanks to Graham Hancock, that there were ancient advanced civilizations far, far, far back before we claim that there was civilization. And you have to think that they were so tuned in to the earth, they were so tuned into the stars that this whole practice of ayahuasca and plant medicines had to have, you know, the stars, the astrology, all of it had to have a big part in it, a big role in it, I would think. And, you know, of course, that probably changes over time as we draw away from the stars and look more at our personal lives. We see how the world's different now, a lot of distractions. We've broken away from a lot of traditions. And even though there's still a lot of old ways, old traditions, as the Maestro Enrique tries to stick with and Maestro Jose Campos tries to stick with and teach and pass down so that it doesn't perish, there's a lot of new practices now. And there's a lot of stuff that wasn't there in the beginning that kind of was just created and kind of added on because, well, why not? You know, I mean, it seems pretty cool to think that there's more to this, you know, than just this thing or it's just this way. No, I think it's all of it. I think the eclipse has everything to do with it. The alignment of the stars has everything to do with the rotation of the planets, the moon, everything has something to do with the energy. And that's the thing about those Carlos Castaneda's books, is that in that they explain multiple times, if you look at everything as just purely energy first, just energy, then yeah, it makes total sense.
Dude, this is how when the Karens pop up, you just think of them, as Castaneda says, as mud shadows, right? These,
Yeah.
allies in a certain respect because they allow you to know perspective and to know where you are. Castaneda, great pull, man. I love that. Outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, please, if you don't mind, because I definitely want to get to all I've been noting along the way here, but I absolutely want to talk about your healing journey. But before we get into that, if you don't mind, let's take the folks through from the dieta up to the Arikana, up to drinking, up through the integration afterwards, if you don't mind. From your vantage point, how does that process work from the myriad of teachings that you've encountered? Because you've gotten several perspectives, but if you don't mind, maybe some of the consistencies.
Okay, so you mean you kind of go through the process of what I experienced, like starting from the dieta?
Sir.
Okay, sure, yeah. So a dieta, what is the dieta for a lot of people who do not know? A dieta is basically a diet. What you'll do is in the Amazon with these curanderos who want to work with you and you want to learn, or say you're sick and you need healing, say you have diabetes or say you have cancer. Then there are plants, there are trees out there that have the abilities to heal people beyond anything that you'll hear about on the news or any pharmaceutical company would promote. Because why give people a cure? That's not good for business. So out there, well, they claim that they can cure these things. And to them, in the beginning, the way it was the shaman, the curandero, was the only one who would drink ayahuasca, and the patient would just come in and lay down. And usually they'd be in very bad shape. And in the ayahuasca is where the curandero is able to scan the person's body. And he can scan the person's body and he can see the body like it's just completely like transparent. And he can see where there's energy blockages and he can see where there's something going on. And a plant spirit will come in and whisper to him, hey, I can help him. And he'll be like, okay. So for instance, for me, it was my first ever plant dieta experience was when I went to the jungle for the first time. I never met this guy before, but I've heard all these things about him. I was super excited to meet him, and I got to sit in one ceremony with him. And the next day, I get called into the Maloka, and the Maloka is basically this yurt, the grass hut yurt that you do the ceremonies out of. And he brought me in, and he said, hey, you're sick. And he pointed right at my stomach, right down here, and said that I'm sick. And I was like, what do you mean I'm sick? Well, what's crazy, what scared me was that he was literally pointing directly at my scar from when I had cancer. And he said it's still in there. Ugh, and I'm like, immediately, my heart just starts pounding. I'm thinking I have cancer again. I've got this curandero in the Amazon jungle telling me that I'm sick. And as soon as my heart started pounding, he goes, I can hear your heart pounding. I know you're scared. And I can help you. Don't be afraid. He said that there's a tree called a Porte Renaco, and it's a big tree. And he said that it's a very powerful tree and that it can help you. It'll give your spirit its strength back because it's been wounded. He also said that I was attacked by something that was jealous of something I had and wanted it, and so wanted me out. That's what he said. I don't know. I know I have some people who just don't prefer me to be around me, have a view on me that, true or not, is the view they have of me. But I don't know of anybody who would want me dead or have cancer. So I didn't know what to think of that. And but what was freaky was that as he's telling me what would happen to my body if I don't do anything about it, it was almost exactly what I had already gone through with my body before I had found out I had cancer. He even said that your testicle would swell up to the size of an avocado. It did. And that's why I had it removed. And that's when I found out I had cancer. Because it started in the lymph nodes, but traveled to lungs and so kind of went this way. And so I'm just kind of like flabbergasted. I'm just like, this guy knows nothing about me, hardly knows my name, if at all, and doesn't know really anything about medical science related to cancer. But he's able to pinpoint with complete accuracy all the signs and symptoms. And so he told me, this is what you're going to do. You're going to eat rice and potatoes and drink water only for 2 weeks, and you're going to drink this medicine that I'm going to prepare for you for 3 times a day for 2 weeks. And then what will happen is that your spirit will get its strength back, so you'll be able to get more energy back, and then you'll be able to protect yourself more. And then on top of that, the key thing I remember him, and remember this too, because this is going to play a part in this next part of the story. He said that it's going to shrink the sickness away. And I kept thinking, shrink the sickness away is kind of an odd way of saying get rid of something. It's like, why is it going to shrink it? Like, you mean it's going to just dissolve it, take it away, or just whatever? But he said shrink. So 6 months later, I go home, right? And 6 months later, after that Dieta experience, I go get my routine scans done, blood work done. And that's always nerve-wracking, as anybody could imagine, or anyone who's been through that or still going through that, just like, I hope I'm still like cancer-free, because I had a curandero in the jungle tell me that I was still sick, and he gave me this plant medicine, and I'm hoping that this worked. And the doctor comes inside and goes, so I have really good news. You don't have cancer, but the tumor scars have shrunken to less than a centimeter, which in 5.5 years has never happened before. Just so happened to happen right after that experience and him telling me that it would shrink the sickness away. So that was like, huh, how much do I really know about things? And I'm a very skeptical person. So I told Maestro what had happened, and he goes, see. Like, yeah, of course it would happen. And he told me that I should come back and learn, because, now that I've gotten that done, he says there's more to learn, more to do. And you're always welcome here. And so I did. I packed up everything and went back out for another experience, except this time I wanted to do the real experience, because the last time I did it, it was with a bunch of people, and we left the retreat center and went to Pisac, the Sacred Valley in the Andes Mountains. And that's not exactly how you're supposed to really do a dieta. And so this time I went back out, and this is where we get to the dieta leading up to these ceremonies, Brandon, is so the diet, the dieta. So when I got there to the retreat center in Peru, Maestro had me take the night off, rest, and then the next night we went into an ayahuasca ceremony. And then after that ceremony, he comes up to me and he says, okay, your first dieta you're gonna be working with Chihuahuaco, which is a tree, another big tree. And so the next morning I packed everything up, and then I headed out took a mile hike into the forest to where these tombos are. They're called tombos, but so basically they're just huts in the middle of the forest by yourself in isolation. And that's where you stay, alone with the forest, alone with the medicine that you're working with. in isolation. And he brings you the bottle with the medicine in it, and he tells you how much to take and how often and for how long. And then basically your diet consists of, and now every person's going to be a different thing, like each dieta experience with different plants or different trees is going to be different. Some may require a lot of protein, some may require little to nothing at all, like just rice and potatoes. So mine was, for this one, it was just rice and potatoes only. But every now and then they would bring like plantains, or oh my gosh, like after like 2 weeks of eating rice and potatoes every single day, which by the way, I've become a master at finding how many different ways you could eat rice and potatoes. It was like they would bring you like a cauliflower, just like one little cauliflower, but you would savor every bite. You could just taste every bit of the flavor in it, because your taste buds are just so refreshed from not having all the spices and seasonings and butter and sugars that we put into all our food that make it taste so yummy. Just simple cauliflowers, just like dessert out there, or plantains. And so that's what I did. For the first 2 weeks, I dieted that plant or that tree and just sat there. There'd be days where literally I had no energy to play music, no energy to write, no energy to read, no energy to take a walk. I couldn't sleep, but I couldn't do anything else. And so it's like there were moments where it was just sleeping, awake, sleeping, awake, sleeping, awake, just completely just losing yourself into the experience, to where, it's like after 2 weeks, you're just like, I am the forest, like you're sitting there like butterfly on your hand and you're just staring at the butterfly, talking to it. You know what I mean? Like just really in it. And just talking to the nature, talking to the trees, talking to the plants, because you're just by yourself. But the dreaming was so intense. It was so surreal, lifelike, as if I was there, as if this was actually happening in real time, like right now. And I had all these profound dreams that were just like almost like something intelligent was communicating with me. Something was trying to throw scenarios at me to see and test me where my character was at, where are my weaknesses, where are my strengths. It was like getting to know everything about me. The Shiwawako spirit was just trying to learn everything about this being, even just all the mind stuff too. And so after that experience of 2 weeks of doing that, I finished the medicine, waited a couple of days. Maestro comes around. He says, okay, now it's time to go sit in a ceremony with the grandmother, ayahuasca, because she will commune you with your plant spirit. So then we go and we sit in an Aya ceremony. And while I'm in that Aya ceremony, it's pitch black in that Maloka. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. But all of a sudden, like just the light from the moon illuminates the whole room up. And I'm like seeing through the Maloka. And now it's almost as if like half my head is underneath the Maloka and my eyes are the only thing peering out, like from the floor of the Maloka, if that makes sense. And then like the rest of me is underneath the Maloka. And I like look down, and all of a sudden I can see like the whole forest, all the trees, all the plants. I can see through them all, and I can see them all just like feeding each other energy, and all the energy that's existing in like in collaborating around. And Maestro told me that, yeah, that's Shiwawako. Shiwawako is the energy of the forest, the life of the forest. Shiwawako tree is one of those trees that you could year round, it provides something for some critter or another all year round. So it's always life-giving. And what a beautiful medicine too. And so after that ceremony, I had lots of energy, and I mean, I felt great. And so I played some music for Maestro. And after that night, he walks up to me and he goes, okay, yeah, amigo, your next dieta is going to be with Shiwawako. And when he said it, he kind of looked at me and he goes, Shiwawako, or I'm sorry, not Shiwawako. Ahosquito. Ahosquito was another tree. And he looks at me and just grins and just goes, Ahosquitos. Muy bien, muy bien. And then he kind of chuckles and pats me on the shoulder and walks away. And that scared me, because I was like, well, this is going to suck, isn't it? But it didn't at all. In fact, he brought the medicine to me, and it tasted a lot like garlic juice. So basically what we did is we walked over to this tree, to the Ahosquito tree, and he started shaving off little pieces of bark and they look like pencil shavings, and they're very yellow. And he puts them in this little jug, and then he fills it with water, and then he gives me the instructions on how much to take, how often, and for how long. And it was only like just a few days of taking this medicine, and it was only once a day. And it was very strong. Strong in a sense of like, it doesn't elucidate these trees, these plants, they don't elucidate effects like you would think ayahuasca does, right? Not at all. The strength of it comes more on an energetic, subtle level, if you want to call it that. I don't know words, right, to explain these things. And so it's more of this, like, as you are in the forest doing this dieta with these trees and these plants, and you're bathing in the creek every day, and you're just eating rice and potatoes, and you're just drinking water from the boiling river, your body is clearing out all that stuff that's got it, like, that's got like all the things in it that's, cluttering up the, the connection. All that's getting cleared out of you before you even really start the medicine work. And like after about a week of being there, a week and a half of being there, and your body's nice and cleared out, is usually when, he's ready to give you the medicines, because your body's ready to receive the medicine. Because if your body isn't ready to receive the medicine, if you're not energetically ready to receive that medicine, it can make you really sick and have an adverse reaction, that for one of my friends almost left him in the hospital. But he came through. He just accidentally took a little more than he was supposed to. And then he was thinking, oh, well, I'm sure this is fine. I can't really pour it back into the bottle. But it wasn't fine. And so that's why they tell you how much to take, and you stick to that. You do exactly what they say. Don't want to cross those dietas. You can get in some serious trouble physically and mentally too. And anyway, oh God, where was I? So yeah, so so it's down to Ahosquito now, and I've been in the jungle for almost a month, and Ahosquito was a different experience. It wasn't like Chihuahua at all. I'm just sitting in this hut, and I was able to read like 2 books. They weren't that long, but they were great. We'll have to talk about some books towards the end. Don't let me forget, because there's some really good books out there for people to read that I think they would find very fascinating, that involves this kind of work. So as I get deeper in with Ahosquito, the dreams start to intensify. You're clear, your body's much clearer at this point. And at this point, like my maestro would tell you that, usually the clearer you get, the longer you stay in dieta, the more those spirits are able to become present, because you're able to see them more, because you're clear, and you have to be clear to be able to see them. So you have to clear to see them. And once you see them, he says that they're no different than just looking right at you and talking to you. You can see them, you can talk to them. And that the animals will come closer, because they don't like the way you smell, and the plant spirits don't like the way you smell. And that's why they'll use things like different perfumes and ceremonies, like agua de florita or peri peri, are different fragrances that are mixed with plants that smell really good, and that the spirits really like. And so it was in Ahosquito that everything started to get really weird, in a good way. It was like I'd wake up in the middle of the night and something's walking around my tombo, and I can't see where it is. And I'd get out of my tombo and I'd go walk around with a flashlight, and it's nowhere to be found. But it sounds like the size of a horse walking around, to the point where you stand up and you're like, hey, 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 like, shoo, bear, shoo. I hope it's not a jaguar. But you can't see you don't know where it's coming from. You can't see it. So it's like, what is that? And it'll go around your tombo in circles all night long, and you can't, maybe it is an animal. Maybe it isn't. How sure are you when you're out there in the middle of the jungle alone and you hear all these different noises? But, that thing would show up, and then the next night I'd hear what sounded like a rat chewing on my bag, and I would shine my light on it, and it would be this gigantic blue butterfly just sitting on my bag, the same exact color as my bag, just doing this. Gigantic. And I'm like, what is it doing flying around at night? And then there'd be hummingbirds coming to visit me at random parts of the day, but they'd get right in my face, like right here, and hover for a moment and lock eyes with me, and then fly away. And so I asked Maestro about this, and he says, yeah, that's the spirits. And I'm like, well, why so coy? And he goes, well, because of your energy, because you're not clear enough yet. And that the longer you're in Dieta, the clearer you get, the more that they come closer and closer and closer until they're right here. And you're able to have a conversation with them and they can tell you, hey, I want to work with that person. He's sick. Look at his stomach. I can help him. Okay, you're going to work with this plant medicine. And that's how they do it out there. So once that experience was set in motion, it intensified the longer I was in that Dieta. And the longer I was in that Dieta, the more beautiful it got. Unfortunately, I was only there for a month, and that's nothing. That's just scratching the surface. I mean, at the least 3 months, Maestro says. But a month is good, for what I can afford, first of all, right now. And two, because, also it's good to not just jump immediately straight into a year-long dieta. I mean, that's tough on the body, you can develop certain deficiencies, malnutrition, all those things. So you kind of want to warm the body up to the experience so that you can actually get something out of it instead of just throwing yourself in the woes of it and just getting so tossed and turned in the energy that you get regurgitated back out and you don't even really know what happened. So the thing about the dreams with Ahosquito is that, if I may share this story with you,
yes, please.
The one profound thing about Ahosquito was one night in my dream, I was at this house. It was nighttime, and all these people were around, and a lot of them I knew from the ceremony spaces that I sit with and drink medicine with. And we were about to do a ceremony. And I was like, oh, let me get my spot set up. So I'm like setting up my spot, and everything's happening in real time. In that dream, I'm like looking for my blanket. I go to my car and grab it. I go back into the house. I like fold it a certain way. I lay it down. I'm listening to conversations in the background. I'm laughing at the jokes that are being made. Everything's so real. And then they hand me the medicine to drink. And I'm like, oh, we're going to drink this right now? And they're like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and just drink it now. I said, okay, that's different. So I drank it. And as soon as I drank it, I felt like I was back into an Aya ceremony in that dream. But then for some reason, I was hearing something outside the house, sounded like music. Of course, my mind, my ears hear the music and it's like, oh, what is that? So I walk out the house, tell everybody I'll be right back. I walk outside the house, and next door to the house is a warehouse, So I walk into there, and as soon as I walk in, it's a dark lit saloon type barn style place. There's a bar to the right against the wall by the door as soon as you walk into your right. And then there's a lounge sofa to the left, and in front of me is like an open space where they have like some chairs and some tables and then a dance floor and then a big stage and then a DJ booth to the right of that stage, and then to the left is like a back room, like a side room, and there was a band and they were just getting done playing some really cool folk music. And so I thought, oh, well, maybe there's another band about to play, so I'll just hang out for a second, completely forgetting about the ceremony that was taking place next door. I sit down and I grab a little what's called a mapacho, which is basically it's tobacco, jungle tobacco, and it's what they use. It's a very sacred plant, very sacred tobacco to these people, and they use it a lot in their ceremonies. They use it to blow smoke for protection. They use it for clarity, guidance, direction, to help work with the energy, the medicine. Lots of good things about mapacho, especially that there's no additives in it. And so it's purely just the plant tobacco. So they just cut it and then they roll it up, and it comes in this log that you then unroll, and then you have to dry out the leaves, and then you just crush them up, roll you a nice cigarette and smoke it. And the thing about it is that you don't get addicted to these things. Like if you smoke them for like a couple of days and then you just stop, you don't get that urge or that craving, that hankering like you do with regular cigarettes, because there is nothing in it and it's got its own form of intelligence. And so I reach in my pocket, I grab one of those out, I light it, and as soon as I do that, somebody directly across from me flicks their lighter and lights their cigarette. And it's this guy, he's got this hat on, he takes his hat off, puts it on the table, and it's so dark lit that I can't really see him. He's just a silhouette. And he starts saying something to me. And initially I was thinking, I don't want to talk to this guy. I'm at a bar. He's probably drunk, and I'm not really here to like meet friends with strangers. I just wanted to know what was going on with the music. And but then he kept saying something to me. So I finally put my attention on him. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. And he leans in closer. And as he does that, there's like this little bit of hint of light that comes and reveals a little bit of his face, like only just like a silhouette side of his face. And almost like a Sin City, like kind of like that kind of image, the black and white Frank Miller style comic book image. and he very handsome looking, like very like Ryan Seacrest, Brad Pitt, like just chisel features, very sharp looking, good slicked hair, but it's gray. And you could tell like this dude was a stud back in his 20s, but he's like much older now and much more defined. And anyway, so he leans in, he starts talking to me. He goes, "What brings you here?" And I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm just listening to the music. I'm a musician." He goes, "Hey, I'm a musician too." And I was like, "Right on. Are you guys gonna play?" And he goes, "No, we're done playing for the night. But if you want, there's plenty to get into." And I'm like, "Well, what's there to do around here?" And he goes, "Well, you can go over there and get a drink at the bar. They have drink specials going on right now. Of course, we have if you're lonely and you want some female company, we have some females in there offering services in the other room. And that other room, the side room that originally had music going on, now had stripper poles and strippers dancing on it, which was odd." And then he goes, "And if you don't like any of that, well, we have a stage up there. And I'm sure if you walk up to the DJ and ask him if you can play a few songs, he'll let you get up there and play a few songs." And I was like, "Well, I would rather, I don't drink anymore." And like the lustfulness of the 20-year-old version of myself, I think was being tested, like with the strippers over there, not that I was a stripper kind of guy, but like just whatever that energy is, that lustful energy and the temptation of it. And I was like, "Nope, not interested in that." Um, so I was like, "I want to go play some music." And he goes, "That's probably a better choice." And he was like, "What's your name?" And I told him. And he goes, "Well, my name's so and so." And I couldn't catch his name. I can't remember his name. It almost sounded like Scott, but it wasn't. So I get up and I say, I thank him for giving me the advice. And he goes, I look forward to hearing your song. Be careful out there. It's tricky. Make good decisions, but maintain awareness and or something like that." And I went up to the stage, and in that moment, all these people started walking in the bar making a lot of noise, and I couldn't find the DJ. And so I was like, "This isn't going to work. That's okay. I'm just going to leave." And then I remembered, oh shoot, there's a ceremony going on. So I just left. I was just like, "There's nothing I can do here." And I didn't see the guy on the way out to just, thank him again and say bye. He was gone. So I just left. And then I went back over next door to the house. Keep in mind, this is all happening like real time, like, and I knock on the door to the house. All the lights are off. So I'm thinking, oh, ceremony started. And the lady who was, whose house it was, she opens the door and she looks kind of startled. And I was just like, "Hey." And she was like, "Can I help you?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm here for the ceremony." And she goes, "Yeah, what, there's no ceremony tonight." And I was like, "Yeah, what do you mean?" And she was like, "Yeah, that happened like a week ago." So I was like, "Okay." And then she was like, "I'm sorry." And I was like, "Yeah, sorry to bother you." And then she closed the door. And then I just found myself just standing there and nothing changed. The dream didn't change. Nothing happened. I literally just stood there, and all of a sudden this realization hit me that I'm dreaming. And I'm like, "How can this be?" And so I'm like looking around, and now I'm like grabbing the ground. I'm touching the dirt. I'm smelling it. I'm tasting it. I'm touching the trees. I flick the bark off the trees. I bite into it. Yep, that's bark. That's not tasty. And I'm looking at the stars, and I'm just like, "What is this?" And in that moment, I hear something, and I turn around, and I'm sitting up in my tombo, and I open my eyes, and they're bringing me food. And I'm just looking at them, and they're looking at me, and I don't believe that it's happening. I believe that I'm like, I don't know which is the dream and which is reality.
Right.
And that happened several times where you weren't sure if you were awake or asleep. And I think the true transformation happened when I just stopped caring whether I was asleep or awake. What difference did it make? Uh, and it was right after that very dream that I got pulled into another ceremony, and I did that ceremony with complete openness, like just like, I am nothing, but I'm everything. I'm a part of this, but I'm not that special. But I'm special, but I'm not that special. Like there's a difference between this self-importance and then this being that just is. And there was just so much beauty in that space because I was no longer obstructed. I felt the pure energy of that forest. And Maestro was looking at me from across the Maloka, smiling, and asked me to sing a song right in that moment. And I pick up my shikapa and I just start singing what they call ikoro, which is a magic song, which can sound like Arcana protector, supai arcana protector, supai arcana chiquirana supai runacito, arcana chiquirana sinche hermanito. And I'm just sitting there getting into it, and it just was coming and coming and coming, and it just was moving all this energy in my body. And wow, what a beautiful experience. And then my last ceremony was with a big group of people who were all there that I was friends with that I got to see. It was their last day there, which was my last day there. And I got to have my last experience in the medicine with all of them after being alone in the dieta for like a month by myself. And what was interesting about that is I never forgot that experience. Now, here's why I gave you that story, because here's where it comes full circle with how bizarre this world is and this work is a friend of mine went out to do a dieta, and he was doing the same dieta that I was doing. He was dieting ajosquito, and he sent me a recording that he made when he woke up from one of his dreams while he was in dieta. This is after he got back home, and he sent it to me, but I didn't listen to it right at first because I was like, look, I want to listen to this when I'm fully present. And he said that there was a song in there that was for me. And so I waited about 3 days, and then I finally had the moment to sit down with my guitar and my notepad. And then I was like, okay, now I'm going to listen to this message. And as I'm listening to it, it's 15 minutes long. He's explaining this dream that he just woke up from while dieting ajosquito. And he says that he was in this place, like a music venue. And he said that there was a man singing on stage that had this like chiseled features, like Ryan Gosling, Brad Pitt type. And he was singing the most beautiful song. And it was written by this woman who had beaten cancer or gone through something terminal, but beat it. And this was a song. And the lyrics came to him. And so he woke up just in complete, just like awe of the whole experience, and wrote down the lyrics to the song and then sent it to me and said, I think this is for you. And so now I've been working on that song because I feel like that was ajosquito. It was like almost like he was identifying the same person that I had the interaction with.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and what are the odds? You know, and I don't think he knew that story. I don't think I told him what that story was. Maybe a little bit, but not to the detail that I just explained. So for him to explain it in a way that's so similar and not know full details is a little bizarre. But is it bizarre, or is it just normal? And we think we know what normal is, so therefore it's bizarre.
Right. Well, a lot of the indigenous elders say that what we're experiencing right now with this conversation, everyone here, this now moment, is really the dream time. And when we truly are living, when we're truly experiencing, is when we're in what we consider the dream time. And so the fact that the two of you had a very similar experience kind of speaks to that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's interesting.
it is. It's pretty cool. And the other thing I was just thinking, when you were talking about the Shiawako, that reminded me,
Shiwawako?
Shiawako,
The
reminded
fun word.
me of that movie Avatar. When they were
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about Awa and everything being connected, which is, very similar to what we have here in the Rocky Mountains with all of the aspens being connected and
Mm-hmm.
all of the energies, flowing through and, being able to communicate with one aspen. I think we just lost you there, but with one aspen in one area talking to the other. So it's everything it's just connected. It's all full circle.
It is. And James Cameron was doing some plant medicine work when he wrote that movie.
Absolutely.
Um,
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what's been fascinating, is that I've always been a seeker of truth. Like my mom, she just wanted to protect me, and she tried her best as a mother. She's a great mother. I love her. But she was a little protective of me seeing some of the ugly sides of the world and tried to shelter me from some of that, with good intent, but also it led me down the path kind of like Siddhartha in a way where it's like, no, I'm seeing some suffering going on here. What is that about? You're not telling me. So now that means I need to go find out for myself. So I've always been like this, seeker of truth. I just want to see things for what they really are,
Yeah, like the
including
Buddha.
myself.
Yeah.
No, I don't go to the extremes as Buddha, you know.
Right.
I'm definitely not
But
a
the
Buddhist in any way. Like
protectiveness and seeking and yeah,
seeing the world for what it really is, as
yeah,
Don Juan would say, the non-ordinary reality, you know.
beautiful.
And yeah, what else you want to get into?
Well, I wanted to ask just a couple more questions real quickly.
Sure.
When you're talking about the dietas, is this to clear the physical body, to allow the body to meet the frequency? Is this to eliminate all of the, toxins that are in the body so that the mind is more clear, or is it kind of like a combination of the two?
It's all of it.
Yeah.
It's if you think about your body, if you imagine you can see through your body and imagine what it looks like living in a city, breathing the city air, the smog, the CO2, eating the food that has preservatives in it or has a lot of sugar in it, and drinking water from the tap or just water that's got chemicals in it from being in a plastic container that was sitting in a hot trailer being lugged across the state of Texas in the middle of the summertime. Right. So there's so many impurities in our world that we get contaminated with. And not just that, but also think about maybe all the emotional turmoil from traumas you've experienced or just traumatic events, whatever they may be, that you've kind of repressed and kept bottled
Yeah.
up inside you, from a memory that you don't even remember because that's how bad it was. You wanted to forget it. You wanted you wanted to protect that part of you that was scared. And so you just kind of pushed it down and just left it there.
Mhm.
This medicine, by the time you're done with the dieta, if you think about what your body looks like after the dieta versus what it looked like before, that's the point. You know, it's clear the body, which clears the connection. Your body is your vessel, your body is your temple. But on an energetic level, what's going on and how that interacts with the plants and the energy is it's a little different. It's not just physical, it's metaphysical. It's not just clearing, but it's cleaning, but it's also healing on a cellular level. Like if you think about how sound frequencies can heal and resonate the body because of how much water is in the body. And schematics show us the way the symmetry can develop with certain frequencies. And so when you add those frequencies into the mix with the Icaros and with the medicine, you get what do you call it? Like kind of like this pulsating sensation of like light being shooting energy light into you, and you're just like, and then you hear the Icaro, and you can just feel like all of that debris just breaking loose, and then all this nausea coming with it, and it starts getting kind of uncomfortable. And like, let's say in ayahuasca, where it's a purgative. And so the point of ayahuasca is to clear it out of you. And so that's where you'll sit there and you'll just start purging, but it'll just be this blackness, this black, just vomit, black tar coming out. And when it comes out, it's not like throwing up when you have food poisoning. It's like it's something else. And there's like something like especially that you have going on inside of you, that when that is ready to come out, when you get in touch with what that is that needs to come out, maybe maybe it was something that happened to you when you were a child that you've kept in there all this time, and now it's getting broken loose, and now it's right here. And if you focus on that and you remember what happened and you concentrate on that and you kind of allow the medicine to work with you on what that is and how to process it and see it in a different light, and then be ready to let it go and release it from you and not hold on to it anymore. And then that could be the thing that takes it out of you. Or yeah, you just literally are trying to clear all the debris out of your body so you don't manifest anything that doesn't need to manifest.
Yeah, and I want to jump back real quick. Well, first, I just want to let you know, Brandon's having some internet difficulty. He's rebooted his system a couple times, and he's just not having any luck popping back on. So I just wanted to let everyone know that. But the other thing
Bummer.
is, if we could jump back and revisit when you had stage 4, because I know a lot of people are very, very interested in this as well. Did you work with the medicine to clear that out of the body, or was it a combination of something else and then you came to the medicine for the additional healing of the body?
Yeah, so it initially was the chemo
Mm-hmm.
that I went through. cisplatin, bleomycin, 2 types of chemotherapy. It was 7-hour infusions, about 6 days a week or 5 days a week. And when I went into remission, I told my family, I'm never doing this again. Never putting that stuff in my body again. And I feel like it was in that moment that I was looking at my situation and I was like, you know what? 50-50. If I die, I don't want to die with a messy room. I have some cleaning to do. So I started cleaning up metaphorical room, started cleaning up my metaphorical room. Because if I was going to meet the maker, I wanted to not be the mess that I was. I wanted to go out swinging in a way. And I think that the moment that I accepted my situation and I started putting less energy into the angst and worry of it and just accepted it as a possibility, like, here, just be willing to accept the worst case scenario. And now that I'm not putting that energy into worrying about it, I have this energy I can put into other things. So as I started to do that, that's when it seemed to have gotten better. And I feel like that's what healed me. I'm sure the chemo maybe helped, but I felt like it didn't. I felt like it made it worse. So when it came down to it, it wasn't until like about 4 years later that I actually was able to find the medicine. And even then, all that ayahuasca work for the 2 years that I was doing it, and I was doing several ceremonies, as many as I could possibly get in. And also, too, because I was a musician, I was being asked to come play music in them, too, eventually. And that didn't do it. That didn't change anything. It changed me in other aspects of my life. But as far as what was related to cancer, it didn't shrink the tumor scars. It didn't take away the feeling of like when I worked out, my body ached and screamed in pain. It just didn't like to work out. It's like I was never the same again. I stopped rock climbing. I just picked up some bad habits here and there, and I was just not happy. Ayahuasca helped a lot of that, like mental stuff. And my teacher at the time helped me a lot with my self-importance and, my mind. But it wasn't until the dieta that physically, spiritually, energetically, that shift happened. And Maestro, that's because he says, all the maestros out there, Maestro William, Maestro Jose, Maestro Enrique, his brother Egna, they'll tell you that the most important thing in this work is the dietas. Not the ayahuasca. And so when you want to get into this work, but you really want to get into this work, you can try ayahuasca all you want. But the real experience is out there in the jungle doing that dieta. It's with the plants that won't give you a cause and effect like ayahuasca, but instead demands your attention, demands that you meet it halfway if it's going to work with you. And that's where the healing is. That's where the real magic happens. That after that experience, that's when the experience in ayahuasca changed. And that's when my body felt better. I was able to work out more. So there's something interesting about it. And, I have this idea of making this documentary one day. Unfortunately, the guy who had all the gear to help us make it, he died of cancer just a few months ago. So we weren't able to do anything. We had everybody signed up for it. We had something to at least get some of it started, which was really all we wanted to try to do, was just get something going. That way we knew it was real instead of just some idea that we had that we were just talking about, which I can be guilty of. I can be guilty of starting something I can't finish, but we had everything in motion. And then when he died of cancer, he called me up one day before he died. His name was John Brown. And he called me up to tell me that it's terminal. He's not going to make it. He doesn't know how much time he has, but that he wanted me to know that he appreciated me sharing my story and that he wanted me to make the documentary. He thought, had I known about this sooner, maybe I could have done something about this. But I think that this documentary is, I think you have something here about this story. I think that it's important for the curanderos to share their story about what this world of ayahuasca and dietas are from their mouth, from their experience, and educate people on what this is so that they can see that there's other ways that they can find healing. And it's not just take this pill, use this chemo, that there's something else out there going on, that you just have to be a little open to it, just have a little bit more understanding of it so that it's not so scary or so and not, incomprehensible, I guess.
Right. Beautiful, beautiful. A couple things, and then I'm going to open it up to our audience to ask a few questions. You mentioned books, that you had some books that you wanted to share.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I knew we weren't going to get through everything in one podcast. There's so much to talk about.
There's no way.
What we'll have to do is can we put these books up on the link so that people can check them out if they don't have to
Sure. Yeah.
memorize, unless you have a pad and pen in front of you, write this down. But Thus Spoke the Plant by Monica Gagliano, who is a research scientist who lives in Sydney, Australia. And she used to work in marine biology. And then so she kind of hit a wall in her research, and she decided to go to the jungle and do these dietas. And it was in these dieta experiences working with the plants that she actually got the idea to do this research on proving that plant consciousness is a thing, that plants actually have a consciousness, that they can comprehend things, that they have memory, that they can communicate and speak, and that they can listen, and that they don't need a brain to be able to do it. And it was the plants in her dieta experience that were telling her how to do these experiments to prove that it was legit. And sure enough, she did them, and it proved that they were legit. And she revolutionized the world of the plant kingdom that none of us knew existed until
Beautiful.
her. That's a really good book that she wrote and put a lot of love and effort into. I suggest that one. And then there's a lot of them, but Carlos Castaneda books are always fun to read. I always like reading those. There's so many of them, but start with the first one. Start with the Teachings of Don Juan, and then man, I wish Brandon was on. He has a lot of good books too. But as far as like this work, I would say Thus Spoke the Plant is the best one to read. It gives you an idea of what dietas are like. But then there's also Mother of God. And this is written by a guy who, when he graduated high school, moved to the jungle and spent the next 20 years in the jungle. And he does a lot of activism out there, helping the wildlife and helping just the forest in general from being burned, from being pulverized and turned into a mining ground or basically a livestock campground so that they can store all the cattle there, and all the cattle just destroy the land. And yeah, it's becoming a problem. And so he's out there on the front lines putting in the nitty gritty to bring the awareness to the public so that we can see what's really going on out there. But he wrote a book about all his 20 years of experiences out there. He talks about the indigenous people he ran into who could kill you and eat you. And he talks about this one flash flood that sent him into the river. And the only way to get through and survive was he had to find these logs, these gigantic tree logs that had been knocked down by the river, and he had to like jump from one to the other and log jump all the way to safety. And I mean, this book takes you on a ride, and it's a really cool read, and it gives you an insight on just the world of the Amazon and what goes on out there that they don't talk about. You have to read these books to find out. And then of course, there's many more, and I'm kind of overwhelmed right now, so I can't really think of them all. So we'll put them in the link for everybody.
Okay,
and I'll make sure I add all the good ones in there.
Okay, awesome, awesome. And then I was just wondering if you would kind of bless us with a song.
Absolutely. So get my guitar up here. I was thinking about what song I was going to sing because Brandon asked if I would get my guitar ready. And I was thinking I'd sing this song that I wrote. It was about my dieta experience in a way, but I didn't write it until I came home. And I was sitting in my room one night, and I was just I was thinking of writing a song. I was like, I want to write a song. I had this little tune in my head, and I was like, let's write a song. And I didn't know what to write about, and so I kind of just was like, let's just put myself back in my tombo. Just get back in the tombo, just get back to where I was and see what happens. And so I just sat there and meditated with my guitar. And then this song came to me, and it took me right back to being in dieta. You hear that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's called Up in the Shrubs.
Yeah, we're not able to hear that. Sorry.
It's okay. You hear that?
I did.
Okay.
Okay.
Mic check, check, 1, 2, 2. We're all good?
We're good.
All right, let's try this again. Now we're having all kinds of technical issues tonight.
Energy is strong.
It is, and I'm exhausted.
Well, we appreciate your being here, sharing your wisdom,
Wisdom.
gifts of life.
37-year-old wisdom.
That's right. Gifts of life.
We know why I'm able to do what I'm able to do, why I feel comfortable being this 37-year-old gringo serving medicine. You know why? Because the medicine likes it. They like my music. They like me singing in that space. And if they didn't, they wouldn't let me. They would turn me into soup and I'd be on the floor, motionless and unable to do anything. But for some reason, no matter how strong that medicine is, it's like, sing this song, play this instrument, play this flute, shake this shikapa. And it just feels natural. And I never expected to end up where I'm at today. I'm super grateful that I've finally found a place where my music belongs. So this is called Up in the Shrubs.
Beautiful.
Oh my gosh. This is just not going to happen.
Well, maybe we just need to hear some vocals.
This is exactly what I expected to happen, though, too. This is like my
Yeah.
first, this is kind of only my second podcast I've ever been on. Can you believe that?
Cool.
We're gonna do this, okay?
But
We're gonna do this.
we're grateful you're here with us.
Yeah, we're gonna do this.
All right.
We're gonna make it work. All right. 2, 3, 4. A bird in the tree, watching with ease, swaying in the breeze, humming to a melody. The vines on the ground growing up towards the crown, showing light from above, hearing sounds from the shrubs. The trees have something to sing to those who listen. The sound can be heard from across a boiling river. The spirits that dwell beneath the ancient forest sing along to the sounds from across the river up in the shrubs. Da 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 da. Ay da 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 da. Ay na 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 na. Ay da da na 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 na. The trees have something to sing to those who listen. The sound can be heard from across a boiling river. There's a man, he waits there in a straw hat to guide along and sing along to the sounds from across the river up in the shrubs. El sonido sagrado de las bendiciones, arbolitos curanderos. Hay milagros para encontrar en la selva, arbolitos curanderos. Rai, ra, rai, ra, 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 rai, ra, rai, ra, rai, ra, 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 rai. Rai, ra, ra, rai, rai, ra, rai, ra, rai, ra, 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 rai, rai. Hai, na, 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 hai. Hai, na, 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 na. The trees have something to say to those who listen. The sound can be heard from across a boiling river. The spirits that dwell beneath this ancient forest sing along to the sounds from across the river up in the shrubs. Sing along to the sound from across the river up in the shrubs. Sing along to the sounds from across the river up in the shrubs. Sing along to the sounds from across the river up in the shrubs.
Mm. Beautiful. Thank you so
Whoosh.
much.
You know,
And
basically all. Sorry, what?
that's okay. I was going to say, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that we have a couple of your soundtracks on the Conscious Awakening Network
That'd be
in
cool.
in
Man,
our
all of
music
this that
section. Yeah.
yeah, all of this is available. Well, not this song yet. I have more stuff coming on the way. I have other things I've been doing, so I'm getting there. But eventually, I have more music on the way than what's out there now. But you can find me, Ellis Sydney, on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and then of course through your station. Thank you for playing my music on your station, by the way.
Love it.
Basically, everything that like it's funny how Brandon's having technical difficulties and I'm like my phone keeps tipping over, like my guitar like is like out of batteries when I just changed it and it's not working. It's like some kind of force is trying to keep this from happening, which is exactly what happened the last time Brandon and I tried to do a podcast together. Some kind of technical difficulty took place and we weren't able to do it. And
Wow.
it's also one of my worst fears of being on a podcast and just like being nervous, like just, you know, being out in the open for everybody to just see me and, you know, and then have all this happen. And this
Right.
just shows you how far my work has come where I just don't care anymore. I'm just like, you know what, whatever, let whatever happen and whatever. It's a live podcast show. What do you
That's
expect?
right. It's live and it's awesome and it's real and it's raw and people can feel that energy coming through. And so I really appreciate your being here. It's been awesome to have you. I'd love to have you to come back because, you know,
I'd be
there's so
happy
much
to.
depth. There's so much that we could dive into. I mean, you know, you say, oh, in my wisdom in my 37 years, but the walk you've been through has so much to share with other people, you know, regardless of age, you know, transcending time, space, and also the fact of the beauty that you bring through that you're able to share with people with the ayahuasca, because I believe that medicine is not like a lot of the other medicines and a lot of the other plant medicines. It has this ancient wisdom that grandmother's able to share with people when you can, you know, truly walk in and it can be life changing, truly life changing. So,
I
you know,
can.
I appreciate your perspective on that tonight. And I want to go ahead and open up. If you guys have a question, please raise your
Oh,
hand.
yeah.
If you're unable to raise your hand, if you want to come off mute and ask, I think Susie looks like she's ready to ask a question. You want to come off mute, Susie?
Yeah, I I just I don't know. This was so beautiful. I mean, this was absolutely so beautiful. I've done a lot of inner work, but I have not done ayahuasca. But tonight I felt like I kind of did, you know? It was like you really took us on such a deep journey. And the fact that you're so vulnerable to show us yourself and your heart and your being, I just cherish what I experienced with you tonight. I mean, really and
Thank
truly,
you.
it's so beautiful. And
Susie?
yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
y-
Thank you.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
really, my heart's you know, I don't have a question. I just am I'm so grateful. It just feel I'm crying, but it just feels so beautiful that you shared. It was like imparted to us. So magnificent. Thank you so
You
much.
thank you for saying that. You have no idea like how much work it took to get here though. You know, that's the thing is that like we want this happiness, we want this happy, joyous, free feeling, but
Yeah.
the requirement to get there
Yeah.
is really the hardest part. It's like the one thing you don't want to do is the one thing that you need to be doing.
Yeah.
You know, and I mean, I still have some people who don't receive what I'm doing very well. They don't think I should be doing it. They think, oh, what does this 37-year-old know? He, you know, and because of how they've seen me act human and not maintain composure at some point in our relationship throughout the years, that I'm always going to be like that. And so it's really taking a lot to get me to be comfortable in my own mess, be comfortable with being a mess sometimes,
Yeah.
and but owning it and being
Yeah.
responsible for my emotions, you
Yeah.
know.
Allowing it to be exactly as it is. I mean, just really allowing. Yeah, you did it. You really have done it, and you're continuing to do it. Spectacular.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
salute
Well, come do it with us. Come be a part of that too.
you. Okay.
Come to the jungle with us. Let's go.
There you go.
I'm going to the jungles of Hawaii in a month. I'm gonna live in a
Nice.
forest, a 23-acre permaculture organic community. So
Oh,
yeah,
that sounds nice.
I'll be with you.
Can I come out and play? Yeah, come invite me out so I can come play some music. I've
I
never been to
promise.
Hawaii.
I promise. Oh yeah,
Yeah, come
definitely
find me.
book
Send me a
ahead.
message.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Susie.
Mwah.
Beautiful. And someone's asking about the name of the books again. So I have
Yeah.
written down Thus Spoke the Plants
Mm-hmm.
and Mother of God.
Mother of God are two good books. If you're really into adventure books, there's one I'm reading right now. I'm about halfway through. It's called River of Darkness, which was the story of the conquest in the Amazon from the conquistadors in the 1600s, Oriana and Pizarro. And they basically get stranded in the Amazon. What started out as a full army, a full fleet, they end up getting like lost in the rivers of the Amazon that they eventually decide to split up, and then one by one the jungle starts picking them off. And then they're at the point now where they're in the middle of the jungle trying to survive, and they build a boat out of nothing. And then so the whole angle was to survive the jungle, and they make it out to tell the story. But oh my gosh, what they went through, and just like the stories of what took place in those jungles back at that time, before all the mass genocide. It was just amazing. So River of Darkness is another one. And then as soon as I get off this podcast, I'm gonna remember 5 more.
Yeah.
But I'm just so tired. I just can't. I'm so
Right.
overwhelmed right now. I'm just like, God, where do we even start? Like, so much to talk about. But
Well,
yeah,
and I do appreciate your being here. We're going to let you go here in just a minute.
sure.
But I just want to check in and see if there's anyone else.
Hello there.
If they want to come off mute. Oh, there we go. Okay, Star Walker, you have a comment, question.
Starwalker, I like that.
I just want to thank you for the courage to show up.
Thank you.
Sometimes our job is just to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And then once we sit on the hot seat, the spirit moves in ways that we can't even begin to imagine. So when I'm called to be on the hot seat, I just keep my mind and heart clear and commit to just showing up and allowing the spirit to move. And I feel that's your knowingness has directed you in a similar way, that just show up and see what happens, and know that the spirit will reveal itself in that moment by being present. And I just, it's curious that you mentioned reading Carlos Castaneda, because I just finished rereading Journey to Ishlan and Tales of Power, that I had read when they first came out in the 70s. And then, without knowing it, meeting a Toltec shaman and experiencing much of what was described by Castaneda in those books, and then being introduced to Don Gennaro, who gave me my medicine name Starwalker, because I became the astrologer to the wheel. So the journey is unexpected but full of magic, and I found that the most beneficial way for me to approach it is to keep it simple.
Yeah.
And
I've tried it so many other ways, and it didn't work.
Yeah, and to know that there are times to wait and there are times to act, like the jaguar in the jungle. It will be entering the silence, gathering its strength for that moment to capture that cubic centimeter of chance, and then leap. So I've made friends with the silence, with what Don Juan Matus described as not doing.
Not doing, yeah.
And really becoming a master of not doing, so that my doings are clear and they're impeccable. So there's a balance between those. Yeah.
You reminded me of something, if I may share with you on that. What you just said about a couple of 7-8 months ago, I was going to take a break from the medicine. Relationship of mine ended. Some friendships of mine I needed to step away from. I didn't like how I was showing up. I didn't like how they were showing up. So I thought, well, I'm just going to take a break. So I'm going to walk away from the medicine. And I was ready to walk away from the medicine. And it was in that space, just like you talk about, where I was in my house. I didn't know what to do with myself that day. I was kind of in limbo. So I said, I'm just going to do nothing at all. And I'm just going to lay here and just be. And I did. And I didn't move. And then I fell asleep. And when I woke up, I looked at my phone and I had like several text messages. And it was from a friend of mine, Mauro, who's a really good painter and talented painter in Peru. He has a retreat center called Mama Yora Healing Center. And he was saying, hey, I'm in Texas. I'd like you to come out and play music tonight in the circle. And I said, sure, I'd be happy to. Here it was. I was trying to walk away from the medicine. And I thought, okay, I'll go sit with Mauro. It's good. It would be good to see him. And so I do. I go and sit with him. And then he asked me to come back again the next weekend. So I did. I came back the next weekend, sat with him again, and it went so well that I went back home and I got another phone call, and it was from the people who were actually putting the event together. And they said, hey, we do these quite often. Can you come back? Sure. And then I got another phone call and another phone call and another phone call. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to try. I didn't claim that, oh, I'm going to be a shaman. I'm going to be a curandero. No, I'm just a dude. And I was ready to walk away from it for a while, but it came back and grabbed me and said, no, we need you. Come back. And so I just kept getting the phone call and I kept showing up. But in that ceremony space, what you say, the not doing, is like kind of like you have to be hollow bones. Yeah. It's not about me. It's not anything I'm doing. But if I'm empty and I'm just there, boom, 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 all of a sudden it just happens. And then people say they get these experiences, but it's not me doing it. I literally have to do nothing at all, nothing. And all this happens. When spirit calls you, listen and go. Blessings. Thank you, Heather.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Starwalker, for your comments.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, we have another comment. I'm not sure what the name is, but it says iPhone. If you want to go ahead and come off mute.
This is fun.
Okay, can you hear me now?
We
Yeah.
can hear you.
It's me, Cindy, Sheila.
Oh, hey, Cindy.
So I'm having problems with my iPhone. So it's not showing my name. It's not showing. I'm having problems with. But anyway, so love this presentation. I wish I could have jumped on sooner because I was working. I was doing readings tonight, and they went over. And I mean, I was happy to have the work, but I would have
Right.
loved to have come on sooner because this was awesome. Love the voice,
Good.
love your voice, love your lyrics.
Thank
I
you.
love your relationship with the plants. Um, oh my gosh, what was the name of the book that you were talking about that had where the plants are talking?
Yeah. Thus spoke the plant.
Thus spoke the plant. I have to get
Mhm.
that
Yeah, it
because
was really good.
I will never have a fake Christmas tree in my house again. Ever
Oh,
ever since last year, I had was my first real Christmas tree, and I saw a nature spirit. It was a fairy nature spirit flash before me. First time I ever had that experience. And I'm doing readings tonight. I do tarot card readings, but I'm also pretty psychic. But tonight, it turned into a crossover reading, and I surely believe it had a lot to do with the fact that I've got tons of plants in my apartment right now. I've got two big poinsettias and a real Christmas tree. And I mean, I live in a one-room studio, but these plants are like huge. And I surely believe, like you said, there's a relationship with the plants. They
mm,
do talk
They are.
and they do help out, and there are nature
Mhm.
spirits.
And that's
oh,
what it is. I mean,
beautiful.
that's just it. We were just talking about this weekend. There was some people who were, trying to learn, what are good ways to work with the medicine. And we were sitting there talking about that you have to develop a relationship with the medicine. Like this is like a bonding experience. It's not a take a hit of acid and woo, here we go. No, this is a relationship that she requires certain discipline and concentration. And if you don't give her that, she'll just linger. And you can take 3, 4 cups and nothing will happen until you get to that place energetically where she can work with you, and then she'll come in. And then as you start to work with her, it's like every session you get deeper and deeper and deeper, but you develop more and more of a relationship with her. And it really feels like you are having an interaction with some intelligent being. It's amazing.
Mm, beautiful. Thank you. And thank you for your comment, Cindy.
Yeah,
Now,
thanks, Cindy.
every time that we have a show, we have Miss Susie to show up, and she always has a beautiful song for us. And tonight she had
Nice.
prepared one for Brandon. He had requested that she bring her ukulele. And so before we head out and before my final thank yous, I want to ask Susie if you'll go ahead and come up because I know you prepared a song for Brandon. And even though he's not here, he can catch it on the replay.
Well,
I want to hear it.
ukulele. This is my ukulele, but I'm not going to sing with my ukulele. I want to sing this song because
Oh,
I'm just so inspired tonight. Okay.
Good.
okay.
Okay, good. Good. I love it.
You think you own whatever land you land on. The earth is just a dead thing you can claim. But I know every rock and tree and creature has a life, has a spirit, has a name. You think the only people who are people are the people who look and think like you. But if you walk the footsteps of a stranger, you'll learn things you never knew. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon? Or ask the grinning bobcat why he grinned? Can you sing with all the voices of the mountain? all the colors of the wind? Can you paint with all the colors of the wind? Come run the hidden pine trails of the forest. Come taste the sun-sweet berries of this earth. Come roll in all the riches all around you, and for once never wonder what they're worth. The rainstorm and the river are my brothers. The heron and the otter are my friends, and we are all connected to each other in that circle in a hoop that never ends. How high our red forests grow. If we burn them down, then we'll never know. And we'll never hear the wolf cry to the blue corn moon, or whether we are white or copper skin. We need to sing with all the voices of the mountain. We need to paint with all the colors of the wind. We can own the earth and still all we'll own is earth until we can paint with all the colors of the wind.
Mm,
Thank you, Susie.
that was
Thank
nice. Did you write that?
No, but I picked 3 or 4 songs tonight, and I kept changing them because no, this was, but I needed to sing this because you just brought this to us tonight.
I'm glad. Yeah,
Yeah,
I like that a lot. I like the line about the otters. That made me.
yeah,
That's cute.
me too. Yeah,
And you're a
I have
multi-instrumentalist too. You played the guitar, ukulele, piano. What else you play?
piano. Yep, yep. It's all in this little back 10 feet of an RV right now. We're moving soon, but yeah, we got it all working. I
Nice.
really enjoyed this tonight. So happy I could sing this for you. Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
thank
you.
you, Susie.
And
Thank you
everybody,
so
be
much.
sure and tell Brandon that I brought my ukulele. I was ready, but it's not that,
I'm sure he's
it's
probably
not that,
watching.
not that romantic.
Right. Oh,
No, the
Okay.
piano was a nice touch.
Yeah. Love you all. Mwah.
thank you, honey. Thank you so
Lots of love.
much. And I want to thank everyone for being here. Ellis, thank you so much for being
Thank
here. I
you.
know, you're just coming off a ceremony, so thank you so much for bringing that energy of ceremony to us tonight, because we could feel it in your presence and showing up in your music and your words. So, I honor you for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Seriously. I'm happy to be here. I
And
hope
we
to do this again soon sometime.
Yes, absolutely love to have you. So thanks so much. And I want to give a big shout out to Brandon. Thank you so much for being my co-host, bringing all these magical, mystical people to us. Thank you so much, my friend. And to all of you who are watching. Now, we will not be back for the next 2 weeks because of the holidays that are going to be here, but we will be back on the 8th. You'll get all of your notices. If you want to join us here in the audience, be here live so you can ask questions, or, just absorb all the yummy goodness and the richness of our speakers, be sure to sign up to be on our mailing list at thegalacticalliance.org or at theconsciousawakeningnetwork.org. We would thank you so much. And I guess this is our, kickoff to the ending of a year, and what beautiful way to do so than bringing this beautiful soul, Ellis, to you guys tonight. So again, Ellis, thank you. One thing I do want to ask you real quickly
Sure.
before we head out, for people that would like to get a hold of you, could you talk about your music and Spotify and everything again?
Yeah.
So they can reach you?
Yeah. So remember, I'm a musician, if anything. And it's because of that music that I get to be in these spaces and asked to do what I do. And so I try to put as much content as I can out there around that. And there's going to be more to come. So just know that there's more to come. It's on the way, but it's Ellis Sydney, ELLISSYDNEY. And we'll put that down in the notes. Ellis Sydney music. And then that will be on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Spotify. I even have a TikTok, but I have like one video on there and I never use it. And a lot of the songs that I have out available right now were written back in 2020. However, there's a lot of new stuff, including medicine songs that will be coming out as well. And then, yeah, if you want to get a hold of me to have me come play at your event, you can just reach out to me, Facebook Messenger or Instagram Messenger, and I'll respond to you.
Beautiful. And you can also hear him on the Conscious Awakening Network.
In the Conscious
So,
Awakening Network. Thank
that's
you.
right. So again, thank you so much. Thank you guys for all being
you.
here till we're back together again. Namaste. Much love, everyone, and have a beautiful and blessed holiday season and a happy new year. We'll see you next year. Good
Thank you.
night.